legislative authority, but we're still a city of the second class, not a city over 100,000 like Kansas City, Kansas is, which is why they had to go to the legislature and get approval for things, as I understood it.
Well, I apologize, don't even interrupt, but I think the other issue with the Wyandotte County KCK BPU is that they were an elected board, and this is not be elected, it's to be appointed. So
yes.
That's another.
And there's state statute that allows for electric utility boards. That's why utility boards in general. That's why there's one in Clay Center. There's and Clay Center I think has been around for almost 100 years as well. McPherson's been around for decades, and KCK's been operating for 100 years.
But my understanding is that we couldn't operate it as an independent board unless it was an independent entity. Is that unless it was a not-for-profit organization that had its own finance, its own board of directors.
Yeah. I guess maybe we better drill down on what we mean by independent board. McPherson is not a separate legal entity from the city of McPherson. In fact, when the Board of Public Utilities, and I ran a docket search out there, when they file suit against someone to collect on electric utility bills, they file it in the name of the city of McPherson, Kansas, DBA, the Board of Public Utilities. So it is still part and parcel of the city of McPherson, Kansas. It is not a separate legal entity out there. What they've done is they've delegated under home rule authority certain powers and obligations under Kansas statutes to this appointed board.
And how did they do that? I'm just curious. Do you think? Is it their size that allows them to do that, or?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
I touched on this a little bit last time. What they did, or at least what they purported to do under their the Mayor's Right Charter Ordinance number 5, is they exercised home rule authority, and I think I mentioned this last time, that in order to do so, the statutes in question, or it's actually the act in which the statutes were adopted, if they are non-uniformly applicable to all cities in the state, in fact, not just a specific statute, any portion of the act, if it is not uniformly applicable to all cities in the state, then cities can exercise home rule authority. So the perfect example would be, and I don't know that this is the case, but the statutes governing utilities have multiple and different provisions relating to regulation of cities of different classes in Kansas. That, on its face, assuming those are all adopted in the same act as whatever statute we would choose to exempt ourselves from, would allow for the exercise of home rule authority to exclude that particular statute from applicability to the city of Gardner, and to act, basically to adopt by a charter ordinance some provision which would, on its face, be in conflict with the state statute.
Yeah. And Charter Ordinance 5 in McPherson has exempted themselves from 15 separate state statutes.
So is option 2 really the same as option 6 minus water and wastewater?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, then let's go back to option 2. Option 3 and 4, in my opinion, seem like viable options, but 5, 6, and 7, again, throw another variable into the equation, which we're not here to discuss. This is all about Ordinance 2296. It's not about enlarging the scope of the problem or introducing another variable into it. It really is just to decide how we can fix Charter Ordinance 2296.
Actually, I believe that the updated agenda that you got stated that it was to discuss options. Did you look at your updated agenda?
I don't know that I saw the updated agenda, but
yeah.
now let's talk about this, because to Larry's point, I mean, not that we can't talk about other options, but any of these other options are going to take some time to work through. So we have an immediate need. I mean, I think we've all agreed that the way we're operating today, we're not interested in. So something needs to change. So I think if there's an option that says, okay, here's immediately how we correct where we are today, and then if there's consensus on one of these other options that says, this is the long, you know, we want to look further into these, then to me, that's the logical approach. Because no matter what, even if we all sat here and said option, whatever, 7, I guess, option 7 is where we want to go, it's not going to happen tomorrow, right? I mean, do you agree?
No, I agree with that, and actually, if we were to go back and start eliminating options, and Larry, I know that you're high on exploring option number 4, but I believe that the consensus of council in the past has been such that there isn't an appetite for bringing the EUB and bringing electric utility back under direct city council control. Is that, Tori, is that still your?
That's my thought.
Heath?
I agree.
Christie? Steve?
No worries.
Okay. So we've got 1 and 4 down. So that leaves us with 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. Now, I want you guys to contribute to this discussion as much as I do, but I don't personally like option number 5. If we're talking about the long haul, that's probably the longest haul, because if it ends up taking the proverbial act of Congress, that could be a nice long while. On top of that, I don't like the idea of the elected board members as opposed to the appointed board members. Part of what we determined when we studied this issue as a study group back in 2011 and 2012, and Christie can verify this, is that we want to try and keep political pressure out of it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anybody that wants to see option 5 on there? Larry, you like option 5?
Option 5, a BPU, no. I don't want
Okay.
to enlarge the scope of the problem.
So number 5,
But-
Christie?
Well, I guess,
I mean, that's-
I guess how I look at it is, if we're going to explore option 6 or option 7, why wouldn't we explore option? I mean,
Because here's the thing, I mean, you guys all signed up, raised your hand and said, you make better decisions than anyone else, and that you're willing to stick your neck out and do that. If you don't want to make decisions on the 3 largest parts of the city, then just resign. Let someone else come in, maybe even somebody from Electric Utility Board come in and serve in your position instead. And they can come up here and make the big decisions. But these are huge monetary decisions, and for you to offload them to people who aren't elected is about the most undemocratic thing I've ever seen. So that's really what the solution is just resign if you don't want to make these decisions. Don't offload them
Well,
on behalf of...
if that's the case, Larry,
Can
then
I-
why have
can I-
city staff? I
Yeah.
mean, because
Can I-
they
Well,
make
because we're not
decisions every
experts.
day.
I would like to
What the city staff does.
But
I would like to interject something here really quickly about number 5, to try and get us back on course. Tori, Heath, Larry all said that they wouldn't support looking at number 5. Well, I appreciate your point. That's consensus of council already. So 1, 4, and 5 are all pretty much no.
I was in favor of 5 until I realized the legal hurdles that would have to be overcome, especially given the fact it would be an elected board rather than appointed, so.
I would agree with Steve. I like 6 and 7, but I agree with Christie. I don't know that we're ready to jump into 6 and 7. So if we're going to just, right now, then I'd be good with 2 and 3, but I would like to investigate 6 and 7 further down the
I think
line.
that part of the problem is, if we go to 2,
That's
that's McPherson light. It's
Right.
no water. And that would take a while to get there.
Well,
And